Hey.
Sabidi. Welcome to Voices from the Laboratory podcast. I'm here with Nee Derry, and we're celebrating International Women's Day. Nee, why don't you just briefly tell us who you are?
Mhm. Well, my name is Nee Derry, and starting a Lao Helping Lao LLC last year, and I'm very excited meeting a lot of Lao people, and especially Lao women. So that's a little bit about me.
So we're here today, really just connecting, right, as Lao women, as sisters, as people who also share similar US roots in upstate New York. So before we actually dive into all that, I want to ask you, how is your jai today?
Oh, my Jai is DJ. Muni DJ
Mhm.
because my wow no Muni. How's
Oh,
my Lao?
amazing. Yeah. Chai. And what does that mean? If you could just explain to people maybe who are don't speak Lao or not fluent in Lao, what is DJ? Or what is
DJ.
Jai? Yeah.
Yeah, Jai is a heart and D is good. So actually, literally, you say, my heart is good, but is happy, you know? So it's a lot of translation that I find that we have to feel it to know even the vocabulary to translate it, you know? But if you say D, Jai, good heart, that doesn't even mention happy.
If your heart were good, like what is the feeling behind that, right? So maybe people get that it's happy. I think a lot of Lao language, like one of our friends Van was saying, is like there's a lot of imagery, right? She was saying that we can use a lot of emojis to express our feelings. And so when I think about when you say DJ, I'm like, okay, I can see what a good heart means. Your heart is good.
So how about you? How are you feeling?
Oh, thanks for asking. I just got back from a short vacation yesterday where I really got to just rest. So I would say sabai jai.
Yeah.
Right? So sabai means peaceful or at ease. I also just came back from Southeast Asia a little while ago and I was there for a long time. And coming back to New York was hard. I was sad for like a month. And so yesterday, coming back from the trip, I felt a little lighter, a little more at ease, but still back in New York.
Good. Welcome back.
Thank you. So this special place for Lao women, I've been trying to cultivate it through Laboratory Women's Collective, right?
Mhm.
And through that venture, I've really found like a really special place just for us as Lao women, which I think is just something that I needed. When I met you, I was like, "Oh, you're from Binghamton?"
Yeah.
And you're like, we're about a generation apart, and to see all the wonderful things that you have done is something that inspires me, or even just makes me aware that there are other people, other Lao women who think that this is important. So, could you tell us, like, how did we connect?
Mm. I think it was, me finding a job. LinkedIn was me spilling my guts out, losing my job and empty nester. And it's like, where am I going? So LinkedIn is a place to revamp yourself. And so here you are, you know, and connecting with me with your project. And I think that's how we met. And the more we talked, the more we found out we're from the Johnson City, Binghamton area. And we know people the same, the same people. I'm like, oh my goodness. And it was like we hit it off right away because of the common people, the place, and also the journey. And like you said, we're age difference, but I think my journey has always been fitting the puzzles where I'm going. And I think you fit that puzzle. You fit to answer a lot of my questions through my journey. And that's like the generation that you are in to help me understand more of what my sense of purpose is, because I have a lot of questions and you answer some of the questions that need to be bridging, because we do a lot of bridging in where we're at, rather than my parents. And I'm in between. And and you're in like between me and my children, so we're a lot of bridging. So that's how we met. And like I said, it's we hit it off because we're from our childhood hometown. That's what raised me, is Johnson City. And I see the struggle that my parents have over there, as far as being a parent the best they know how, and as well as finding money to support us, and it all happened in Johnson City area, you know, of neat things that they do for money, like worm picking. I laugh now, but that's like, you know, our thing. Like I know I do it with my parents. So
Yeah, I think the idea of bridging that you mentioned, it really resonates with me because I think when we met, we were both in transition phases, right? Like you were saying you had just lost your job and you were putting yourself out there in a very vulnerable way and saying that, you wanted to accomplish this or you wanted to connect over this. And I was in a similar place. I was still in the classroom and I was getting ready to leave the classroom. And so I think I was kind of a few steps behind you, right? Into being in that kind of floating liminal space. And so when we connected, I'm actually surprised to say, like, you learned so much from me, but I feel similarly through all of the conversations that we've had, which have never been shorter than an hour. Like even when we call and we have like a meeting, right, on like a project that we're working on, we're always just, we're family first, we're Pinong first, we're people first, and then we are people who are trying to build something, right? So I love that, our relationship wasn't transactional. It was just from a very curious place. I was just like, who is this woman
yeah,
that's also from my hometown that also went to the university that I failed out from? But that was just even like something that I had to tell you, right? That like I went to SUNY Binghamton and it wasn't a place where I felt that I would succeed and thrive. And we've shared different things about growing up in Binghamton. So I love that, like, we're a generation apart. My mom is a generation above you, and she knows who you are too, right? And now I know who your daughters are. It's actually been like a very beautiful just relationship.
I'm very proud of you of going to be a PhD. I mean, I rarely find your age that to go for it, to trying to start a nonprofit, trying to do your LLC, and then going to grad school. That's impressive. I just want to let you know that that's something, okay? That's a big accomplishment. I know in our community, we don't praise. I mean, I don't walk when I graduated from Binghamton, I didn't walk to get my certificate and people would cheer me on. It's like, oh, okay, I graduate. Let's move on. And we never praise each other. So I want to, that's part of Lao Helping Lao too, is kind of uplift,
Mhm.
you know, the people that's doing something amazing, and to say, hey, that is a great thing. Let's help you to get that, you know. And so yeah, I'm proud of you. Very proud of you.
Likewise, like I love your Project Lao Helping Lao. I love that the name is just so straightforward. It's like, what do you do? You're trying to bring Lao people together and create these systems and pathways for us to be successful and for us to maintain it. And I, looking through your Facebook and just the years and years of work and connection and research that you've put into Lao Helping Lao, like I'm very impressed. I was like, oh my gosh, she knows this person and this person. And, like a lot of the people who I also look up to in our community. So I have another question for you, and that's you started to talk about your parents earlier, but what is it that inspires you to focus on Lao people, right? And especially now you've got ventures specifically about Lao women. So can you talk about why you decided to focus your energy towards that?
Mhm. Well, it started with the Asian hate. Why, when I was, working then, coming back from work, and the Asian hate began. And people are like asking me, "Are you okay?" And for me, I'm like, wow, it's the first time that somebody actually called me and say, "Are you okay?" You know? And then it led me to where a lot of people are questioning where I come from or where I'm at. Like, do I have the answer to give them? You know? And so if I don't know, I need to go find it because I've been leaving this part of myself on hold. You know, I'm not blaming, I'm have no regrets of being a mom, for 16 years and trying to be the best mom I could, and also, trying to make sure my parents are okay, and all the roles that I have done. And for me, I put the Lao part of me aside. And when the Asian hate started, people begin to like, where are you, could you relate, and it's like, they probably categorize as, Chinese and the majority of the Asian. And I'm just like, you know what? I need to go back to Lao, helping Lao, where I started 13 years ago, to collect all the programs that I've been trying to research for myself, to see what are they doing and see what I could do to help. Because then it's selfishly, good selfishly, like it's helping me, right? To learn what I need, but then it's helping the other Lao community or person out as well. And so that's when I went back to Lao, helping Lao. What could I do with this? Why I'm learning? And then how can I make money as well? This is going to be my income that I live. Could I do it? Let me test it out. Let me research everything on top of the 13 years that I did research on Lao Helping Lao. And then it begins is really finding a solution to the question that you have. And when I meet people, they are trying to find a solution to what they want, and so it's okay, if you're going to do the same thing, let's do it together. Why can't we do it together? That's how I think it's time for me to go back to the Lao community, not just in the United States, but the world, and to see how we are more have in common than we think, and that our work are similar than we think. And let's concentrate on coming together and get that done instead of competing with each other. So our progress is slower for doing that. So that's how I'm in love with Lao Helping Lao. Actually, it's been a year or so, but officially to be a business, but it's been a healing process for me.
Hmm. That is so fascinating. I didn't know that that was something that stems from Asian hate and Stop Asian Hate, because I feel like a lot of what I've seen, how people have reacted to Stop Asian Hate is to kind of be defensive and reactive. And I love that it prompted you to think about who you are as an
Mhm.
Asian person, because now other people were starting to see your Asianness,
Yeah.
and that moment you wanted to actually get really like granular and say like, I'm Lao, but what does that mean? So it became like a research for you. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I didn't realize that, because like knowing that, like because that's kind of how I've approached my work, right? Is basically through being a teacher of immigrant children who have like all of these cultures that they bring with them, and then they look at me, and I am in that position where I'm wondering, like, am I American here, or am I also this other from this other place? And so that's why I have also connected with other people. Even laboratory, when we started, it was kind of just like, hey, like, we're Lao women in New York City, like, you want to get together and eat.
Mhm.
And through just being together is what prompted us to question, like, what does it mean to be Lao American woman, which I think is the best way to do research, right? Is to just like feel things and then question them. And so that's why I have been very attracted to this work with Lao women, And
Mhm.
so I know that you are also very focused on Lao women. Do you want to talk about what inspires you to really center Lao women in your work?
Mhm. And for me, it's like I said, it's my journey. And whatever it is, I'm questioning whatever I want as far as my knowledge. I'm hoping that other women want it too. So for me, at my age, 52, just turned 52 last month. Yeah. So as I was telling the other person before, it's like I want to use the project that I'm working is Lao Woman Wellness 50 plus, which is based on, of course, my journey. But I'm meeting a lot of women that is my age and above that have questions that was never talked about. And you could imagine, like, even your mother of things. Did she get help with, her menopause? Did they, with the trauma, with the war, and with the um well-being of our mind, of that trauma? Did we ever get helped? Normal to have a feeling like that when you go traumatically in your life it happened. We don't have anybody to help us in that. I know the younger generation could find help, but still yet the younger generation have to deal with us and have to deal with the grandparents that deal with the war. So we are affected, as far as that. So having the platform for our age and above is to dive into the issues that we are dealing with as older age. It's going to be for every age, for every races. But like I said, with my company and what I'm doing, it's focused on Lao, but it's universal when you think about it. And so that's why for me, the wellness for 50 plus is just where I'm at right now, and the questions I have. And of course, pulling in the experts that I don't know and to find help. And hopefully that I could help the people that are seeking help, but don't know where to go. And I'm hoping that Lao Helping Lao could be a directory of resources for the Lao woman. And of course, for the health field industry professions to use their skills to help us. So that would be the career development part of it. Because do you know the Lao woman doctors or therapists that you guys would come together and have a development of your own? You know, uh, that's powerful to me. And then for me, it's just like, wow, look at all this expert. They could help me, to healing in my journey. So I'm very optimistic about the project, but it's new. So it's never been done. So I'm gonna have, I know maybe I'm not gonna have any responses to the survey that was promoted, but I hope that people take time to fill it out, because we will not know where to go with this project if we don't hear from our community. Because any project that we do, any program is for the community. So if you don't have the response, then it's what I think that needs to be done. And, I don't want that. Philosophy is always hearing the people's voice that I'm helping. So that's it. It's just a platform for all of us to come together and deal with the issue that was never talked about or even healed.
I hear a lot of important things in what you're saying, because I've also been having conversations with other people who are worried about this idea of getting older, right? Not just for themselves, but also for the people around them, and looking at the intersection of our experiences as refugees, as Lao people. Like, how do you care for your parents as they get old if you don't live with them, right? They're not going to go to a nursing home, right? Like they'll they will die
Yeah.
rather than go to the nursing home. But the reality of our society is that most children don't live in the home. Your children don't live in the home. I don't live in the family home, so what does it look like to have, parental care? And I hear that you're bringing up, other more physiological things like menopause, and menopause for women who have gone through the refugee experience. I never even really thought of that, so I think, you know like what you said about focusing on Lao people is also really crucial, right? Like it's not exclusive. Like we are a very small but very marginalized group of people who have gone through a lot of experiences that people still don't even talk about, So I think whenever you focus on the people who are on the outside, you're always going to serve the people in the middle. So just to affirm what you're doing as significant, And I didn't even know that there was a survey. So I'm glad that I know that now, because it sounds like this might be an intergenerational effort. Like if you want my mom to fill out the survey, I got to help my mom, or like I got to at least tell her about it. And so I think it's maybe important to think intergenerationally about, like your kids generation and like their friends, right? They got to help their moms and their aunties like take the survey. So the data gathering it's not as easy as just like sending something out there, right? It's like we have to actually amplify it and talk about it and assist people in completing the survey so that you have this data and you can and be responsive to our people's needs.
Hmm. And I mean, the people are helping their parents anyways. So I'm questioning the people that's taking care of the elder. Are they finding the answer that is to benefit the people that they're looking for? Because
Mhm.
they don't, they can, yes, you could translate and all that stuff, but do you know where to go to to help them even more? You
Yeah.
know, because you're not in that stage to know where what it is that is available to them.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, or any issues that they might be having, because they don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And translation is just not that simple, right? Because you could put something in Google, it's not going to explain to you what it means culturally. So I love that you are also tapping into other Lao women experts who work in wellness, who can, you know, basically team up. I love that you are saying like we need to actually bring our resources together. Like we need
Yes.
all the Lao medical experts, because are they even connected? Because I feel a same like tension just being like an academic or a scholar. I'm like, I know I'm not the only one, but I'm not really deeply connected to a lot of other Lao people in education, So it's like we're finally getting to a point where we have enough numbers to form these affinity groups that can become these specialized experts on, Lao and XYZ, Lao and that.
And then, I'm not forgetting the allies that's been years and years researching the Lao culture. We need you too, allies, because you're ahead of us. Your studies, your research might be beyond us, and I need to know where you are. So you don't need to be loud to help find solution to fix whatever it is that a community is facing, because I'm meeting a lot of non-Lao that spend years and years of work in Laos and for the Lao community. We want to uplift them, been brave enough and have the compassion enough to spend their lives studying what it is that they're studying about us. And I want them to be on our team for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There are spaces for them to join our work, of course.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So I would love to talk about this idea of the garden and tending to our own gardens, right? Which is kind of what we've been doing, both tending to our own gardens, but also like one another's, right? We are flowers from the same garden.
Yeah.
And we recently, in the fall, had an event together called Our Mother's Swans,
Mhm.
which we collaborated with one of our sisters, Anoy, to like bring to life, right? And the way that I have described it is it was a virtual bun, right? 3 day long
Mm.
bun where we hit up other amazing Lao women who have things that they wanted to share, projects that they're working on, or just make us laugh. Um, and so I would love to hear your reflections on it. Like, what did you enjoy about it? Like, what did it mean to you to do this event?
I think it's a start of, recognize, like I said before, uplifting the successful Lao woman that's out there, which you have the guest speakers, of their work, and also the people that are seeking support are there. So we have this piece of the puzzle that was all there in Rasuan. Here these Lao women are blossoming in some ways, and then there's a Lao women that are wanting, and that's possible because they're doing it. So it's a piece of, for me, when my reflection is all overall is coming together, unite, and very inspiring to continue work or start a new work. Yeah, that's my reflection. And I'm hoping that it's continual year after year and be bigger and bigger to find like what I'm trying to do with my health, with the wellness. This is success. And then the people that want to change their life to do what they are meant to do and find a mentor, like the mentor mentee that Lao Helping Lao is trying to do, is to have that program for, okay, you're successful, help the sisters out that want to be in your position. So, and then it's there a variety of subject, it's not narrowed down. This is it for us. It's everything. And that's why I want to find as many as subject matter expert that we have. And if you're a teacher, the teacher's next. Okay, what's the group? What's the solution that you guys trying to fix? Let's come to that as teachers. So it's all the subject, but I'm doing one by one, hoping that we could get all to the subject. But I need everybody's help. I can't do it by myself, for sure.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge to me in doing this type of work is like trying to resist the urge to do things by yourself, because for me, it's been hard, right? Like I've had balls drop, right? Because I'm just like, I can't follow up because I also have this other thing I have to tend to, which is like job and my academics, right? But I just want to emphasize that this type of work requires collaboration, and it requires capacity building, and it does require these kinds of conversations that are not, okay, we don't exactly know, but we're just sharing how we've experienced things, right? And trying to start from there instead of like coming in and just saying like, we need to do this, right? Or allow people this. But yeah, like hearing what everybody's saying is a lot of work too, right? Because it takes time to like talk to one another and build relationships. But I think once it becomes the way that you do something, then it starts to generate itself. So just like when we did our Mother Swans, like you linked up with Van, right? Who is somebody that you're actively working on trying to liaise and use Girl Scouts as both the platform and as allies to amplify Lao culture through Van's book, right? And through your nonprofit. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you have going forward besides your Lao Women Wellness 50 plus?
Yeah, because I think you touch on doing those things alone. I think Lao Helping Lao is a place where your accountability is in play. And it's also what I'm noticing is that it's a playground. What you have, Lao Helping Lao is going to do it. So, with you. So one of them is, of course, Vilavan Bender. She's the author. I want to celebrate her because what an achievement. I mean, she's been doing this for over 5 years. You know what I mean? Like I never heard about her before. And she's been trying to promote the Lao culture. And once we know who we are, and that's when we go out and share it. And for me, it's been with the Girl Scout volunteer and staff for 25 years. And when I met her, and her daughter was a Girl Scout, and the book was written for her daughters. And it was just so fitting that we met. And it's like, this is started with a conversation. And then one thing lead to another. Is like, well, I could help you with that if you want to touch on Girl Scout, because that's what I feel that have the template for cultivating the girls to have their voice and be the leader and explore all the options out there in the world. And so I was like, what a great way. The book is the product for us to sell, but yet, kind of touch base with our children, and then also the America, you know, and then hopefully reach to the Laos to work together. Yeah, we're different, but we it works. The way we do things in America and the way we do things in Laos is differently, but it works, and hopefully we could share that commonality. And so that's just for me, Lao Helping Lao moving forward is for the leadership or the founders that they need some help to get whatever they need to move forward. I think we could be of help, from IT to program management to events and all that stuff. And whatever it is, I think we could figure it out. And that's why I put it really broad, like it's the solution. What is your problem? What is your topic that you're passionate about? What is the question that you are having? That is your passion, is your question. And so I'm hoping that Lao Helping Lao could be that company that bring people together and solving problems. And it's a start for the Lao community. And also, like I said, once we know ourselves, we could share it with the world, with our neighbors, with our home, and so forth.
Yeah,
So
I think when you put it that way, like in terms of our passions, like that's really not something that we've always had the luxury to focus on, right? Because it was always about struggling, surviving. And so I appreciate that you are foregrounding it in that, right? Like bring your passions, your questions, just to explore, because I think oftentimes, like if you go to like a consulting for help, you're just like expecting like an answer, like a B, C kind of answer, which like maybe that's what some people need, but then other people just need a space to like think, right? Or to have conversations, or to say like, I need to meet somebody in this field. Like, do you know somebody who I can just even connect with? So I like that it's very like holistic, right? And not just like, I would say like business like, right? Like it's really taking into consideration like who you are as a person. And you've done an amazing job at cultivating relationships with people. And I also love that you mentioned it's important for us to know who we are as Lao Americans, especially as a lot of people now are going back to Lao, right? Like I was just there for 7 weeks. You're also getting ready to go on a trip to Lao. And I think there's this topic that I don't know if a lot of people have been touching on, but like reconciling between the two worlds, right? Like the people in Lao, the people who grew up Lao American, because I think there's a lot of things that we don't know about each other and that we really don't understand, and that I think still keeps a lot of us from even like I know a lot of people who don't want to go to Lao, like they don't have a curiosity, which is like fine, but also people who are like very ambivalent because they don't know how to go back, because it is it's an experience, right? Like you're not going on vacation, like you're going home. So I would love to hear more about what you are just thinking or feeling as you're getting ready to go back to Laos. When was the last time you were there?
Oh, I went back only a couple of nights, 2019, and it was an experience. I would try to, you know, go to the Mekong River. That's where we escaped and kind of like take it all in. And now this time around, I'm going to have more time and I will report back to you and to all of you to, I think is another perspective because before I went, I didn't find Lao Helping Lao to be a business yet. And now that I have a year and a half of learning who I am, and also for me it's like the unity part is, and the work that we need to do as a Lao community is we have a lot of barriers, we have a lot of things that holds us back, like for example the politics of it, you know, for example the flags, the different flag and the different opinions of the government and the war, and those are real and we need to know, you know, but then how do we move on, because some people are stuck in that, and I'm not saying it's easy. We need to come together and help the younger generation to really know the Lao culture, the language, so we could communicate with each other. Right now, I mean, when the Lao people are displaced all over the world, it's like we can't speak to each other. And also, when the younger generation try to speak, the older generation taunt them or make fun of them because of the accent is wrong, or because we need to stop that. We need to even embrace, wow, you want to learn Lao and you what age? That is, I mean, I'm always bringing positive to things that could be negative and could hold us back. And I find that a lot through my research is what is holding us back, and it's a ridiculous things, but it's painful things. So that's why I can't dismiss it like it's easy, because for example, you know, I have to deal with my parents, you know, and my dad. It's hard for them to look at the new light, you know. But so for the unity part is my biggest thing, my peace, and not only having peace in my heart, but like peace in our Lao community, and also, you know, just like a United Nations, you know, that's what I want to, my vision seeing as is a Lao United Nation. That's the ultimate goal of mine, is to have us come together and fix our adopted home or our home, you know, because for me, I'm a Lao American. This is my home. But then we have question where we came from, and it's okay to have that question, and it's going to be painful when you hear things, but we can't make that stop us. For me, at least, to find peace, because there's war or there's disagreement or, you know, there's killings and all that painful stuff, even trauma. It's very hard, and hopefully this Lao woman wellness will help me to understand that, and then so I could share it with more people.
Yeah, exactly. As you were talking, I just noticed you mentioned the word pain a few times, right? So that to me is just signaling how much healing still needs to be done within our community and within generations. And this idea of wellness and what does that extend to, and how this group that you're developing can maybe look at some of those things, right? Because I agree. I think there's a lot of disunity because we haven't healed, right? So if you haven't healed, you're not going to be able to be open and extend yourself to, trying to understand what the other person is saying. I talked about this very recently with Anoy about this idea of being fluid with language. And if people want to understand you, they will try to understand you. They're not going to correct every single word or accent that you say. So I think older generations with the younger generation need to be able to extend that grace, and younger generations can maybe learn from that and see, like my uncle, my grandma is so open to sharing with me, or my parents can say sorry. So I think there is just a lot of places where we can connect intergenerationally, and how to do that across languages. Like, I don't think you have to be fluent in any one language to be able to communicate with another person. Like, think about the ways that you and your parents and your sisters communicate, or you and your children, like or when I think about how I talk with my mom, like, we're using all the languages that we need to because we're trying to understand each other. So I think maybe if we can think expansively about how we actually communicate, and not just like listen with almost like with a closed ear and a closed jai.
Right. Right. And I think food is going to make us kind of open up a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's why we're going to have a registered dietitian in our team, because, it's the talk about the old way of eating, the health, right? Go back to nature and how the preservative, all that comes in play. And that's why I'm so excited
Yeah.
of so many ways that we could heal physically and mentally, so the food is always something like I smile, right? There is no politics between that. We're gonna eat that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like that bring us together, if you think about it, right? It's like tambakung, how spicy you want it, And that's, I think, a peaceful part where let's respect our opinions, but something like food could bring us together. We could do great things together, So
Yeah, it can be an opening to talking about some of those more difficult
yeah,
things, right? Like, I think politics is important, right? You can't avoid it, but it is complicated and it's painful. And before we do that kind of work with each other, we also have to just connect as people, right? So I think the food can facilitate that. And, you know, food is
sick,
yummy. With that,
right? The bun that you're trying to do with my mother Swan's event. I mean, that's
there's a lot of things that we were not able to bring here to America, that people in Laos use as healing practices on the daily, right? So the food, the music, even the smells in the airs, or the herbs that they're using, the connection to the land itself is restorative and healing. So I'm really curious to see how you and the women that you're working with are bringing those kinds of knowledges together, and what it looks like for us as Lao Americans who don't live in Laos, right? But like, how can we heal ourselves?
well, like I said, it's I just want people to take that survey so we know where you are, what issues, so we need more relaxation techniques, or because we don't know, where are you, like, because we can't produce something if we don't have anybody that needs it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know
Well,
so
I am always down for a retreat. You know that. I love me a retreat.
that's on the list, so a lot of people check that. That's gonna happen, and I'm gonna call you. Hey, let's do that Mother Swan retreat.
Yeah. So where can we find your survey?
You could go to Lao Helping Lao, and it's going to be programs. I put it, so that's gonna talk with the survey and also introducing our Lao therapist, Tavan, her bio, and also the wonderful, I call her Pim, that I met in Michigan, that she started a nonprofit for refugees garden.
I need to meet her. And both of these women are in Michigan, where you are.
Yes, they're both in Michigan. Pim is a what's it called, master in social worker candidate for University of Michigan. I'm very proud of her, and that she is doing a nonprofit, basically the refugees woman, single woman. Like, also, she's also like me, using her life to do the work, and so it happens to be a garden.
Hey, I gotta come visit. I'm gonna come visit this summer.
Yeah. So hopefully, the woman that she's helping, that could, ESL, and it brings back to our parents how they came and don't know the language and all that stuff. And so usually, hopefully, using the garden to make some money, some income, and how that works, you know. And so I'm very excited, and hopefully you could read their bio, how great their work is doing, and and visit them and their work. And so Lao Helping Lao, go go to programs, and it's Lao Woman Wellness 50 plus, and it's there, and the survey is interest form. So, and it's posted everywhere. I have the QR code for to to click on, and also hopefully there's a link there to go to the website.
Great. Well, I will definitely list that information along with this episode. So if you're listening, you are a Lao woman over 50, or you know a Lao woman over 50,
And the
take the
profession.
survey and
Yep.
send the survey to them, so that we can really gather data on our community's needs. I think this is like a very revolutionary moment, right? To think about wellness, especially for a certain demographic of women. And like, let's explore, let's learn together.
I'm looking for a team to build more with doctors and psychologists and all that stuff. I know you're out there.
Yeah, yeah. So if you are a wellness professional in any capacity, hit her up,
Yes,
because we need to build capacity. This work is impossible to do alone.
yes, for sure. The human services, the healthcare, the wellness, like you said. I know you're out there. Please join us. We need your help. I can't do this by myself.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to wish you Sok D on your
Oh,
trip that you're going on very soon with your family. That's going to be just a incredible experience to go home with your entire family. And I know you have a lot of exciting things planned. And I hope for us that we connect soon, because I would love to talk about what the next iteration of our Mother Swans looks like, or even just what it looks like for our work around Lao folks and Lao women to intersect again, because I had an amazing time just even doing the event with you. It was fun, right? Like, I just want to
oh,
say, out of anything, it was so much fun. Really blew my mind to just create that. So I couldn't have done it without you.
kicking my butt to get going on.
It
Thank
is.
you.
That's what we do. We just, give
Like,
a little
you,
short farting.
13 years is too long, Nee. Let's get going.
Yeah,
So
I
thank
mean, that's what this work requires, is just like another person to be like, wow, you're doing that, or like, how can I help?
you. Yeah.
Those are the things that fuel us. So let's continue to help uplift each other and support each other.
Thank you. Thank you. ขอบใจหลายๆ
Jai Lai Lai. Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning into Voices from the Laboratory podcast.